Smruti, good to see you. Thank you for making a bit of time to come and have a chat. I wanted to start the interview by asking you about something that you said to me last time we spoke. You said that you felt business actually was a really important factor in delivering positive change for people. I'm an economist, so I would agree with that. I think business is absolutely about being positive. Why do you say that? And how are you sort of making an impact on that in terms of your business?
I think that business is all about buying and selling.
Yeah,
And the process of buying and selling in a marketplace means that you have to be efficient.
yeah,
And through these efficiencies and learning how to trade, one can then unlock amazing opportunities for community. So if you can see, I mean, we have been working as a business for good, which I believe all businesses should be. I think all businesses have the ability to support their local communities or other
mhm,
campaigns across the world by by weaving it into every opportunity within their department. So if you've got HR can work with mentoring younger people getting in from the local community or the local universities where the skills are needed for that particular business. We have a sustainable product business, so we manufacture and sell and then do big campaigns like we've done across the past decade, supporting the British Fashion Council during the pandemic. We raised over £1 million. During the Queen's Platinum Jubilee a few years ago, we helped plant 3.5 million trees through our partnership with the Queen's Green Canopy because we manufactured quintessentially British items
right.
and sold them in retail. So it's ways in which you can weave in what does your business do and how can it have a positive impact, whether it's a service-led
Yeah,
business or a product-led business.
yeah. And what set you on that path? Because there's lots of things you could have done. Why did you choose that particular way forward?
I mean, our family, and this is a family business, have always focused on being generous towards a community. It's in the values and in the DNA of the people within the business, and all of the people that we hire within the business really love being focused on giving back. Now, that could be working on sustainable materials, or it could be, which is, supporting a more sort of sustainable way of living, or it could be that they're focused on education or design and supporting the emerging talent within education and art and design. And so it's really intrinsic in the values of the business. And that's why people join our business, and any opportunity to support, we will try our very best. And if we can't do it in the ways in which a charity or an organization approaches us, we will do our best to connect. So we are very generous in connecting dots within our networks, which we've amassed over 25 years.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Most people would say, though, that that is a cost. What you seem to be suggesting is that that's also what makes you more profitable. Just explain
Totally.
that dilemma and how that works in your context.
Moving away from the world of business and just extracting ourselves and and saying, well, we're all humans, okay, and we all
Yeah.
inhabit this shared planet that we all are, we don't own. We are on this planet as and the planet is very giving towards us, and so having that very philosophical approach to who are we and why we're here can often make you more humble in how you approach requests. So we absolutely don't see a community request as a cost. We see it as an opportunity to connect with other humans, partners, respect the work that they do, because charity is a hard business. I mean, we help run a charity called the Wings of Hope. It's been running for over 22 years, 23 years, and we know how hard it is to raise funds. We know how important it is to give
Mhm.
gifts in kind. We know how important it is to volunteer. And that um, hands-on experience makes you have empathy when you get a request. And it's not a cost, because we have always felt an amazing amount of abundance. Anytime you give, you don't expect anything back, but you do get back. You get back in the most beautiful and interesting ways from call it the universe or the energy that is around us, but humans connecting with each other and giving generously without any expectation has the most incredible ways in which a business can operate. For example, in the early 2000s, one of the students working on the Wings of Hope program that we helped run, two 14-year-old girls, they had a beautiful, lovely balloon launch. They said, "Can you sponsor a balloon?" And they had a balloon launch in the centre of London. And my parents went along as founders of the charity. And they set off these balloons, and it was all very exciting. And the parents of one of the girls said, "Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity you've given my daughter. I'd love to treat you to tea at our offices." And so my father went along to their offices, having no expectation or understanding of what that what that girl's dad did. And incredibly, that was one of the owners. It was the founder of Dunnhumby, and
Oh,
they sat
wow.
on the board at Tesco.
Wow.
And Tesco, and he had just attended a meeting in the early 2000s saying, "We want to reduce single-use plastic. Do you know of a supplier who can supply us something which is reusable?" My father had a history in trading natural materials, and the rest is history. That one simple act of kindness has led to
Yeah.
an actual business operating. So you really don't know, and we're too small a soul to know how things all operate with each other.
Yeah. So just you mentioned this charity, the Wings of Hope, and we will come back to your business in a second. But so tell us what the Wings of Hope charity does. I mean, what is that all about? I mean, you mentioned young people. I mean, just give us a bit of a flavour about what you're trying to do with that.
So the Wings of Hope Children's Charity was set up in 2003, 2004 with the mission to help young people gain life skills. So in the UK, it's a social enterprise program. So students who are 13 to 18-year-olds get into groups of up to six and do fundraising projects in the most colourful and creative
Oh,
ways within their
wow.
local
Right.
communities. So think of them as mini enterprises.
Yeah.
You've got 24-hour football matches, you've got fashion shows, you've got monopoly board exercises across London, you've got children scaling sort of the three-peat challenge, 100,000 steps in a day, you name it. The students go,
Right.
get really, really creative. They then go through a process of workshops and mentoring. They present their projects as part of a national competition. They get judged in the most exquisite way in Westminster by a luminary panel of judges across business, politics, journalism, art. And then there's an awards ceremony, and there's one overall team who then get a trip to India, where we then
Wow.
an expenses paid trip to India. And we've been doing it for over 20 years, and that experience is life-changing in every aspect, because they get to go to a sort of very impoverished part of South India, where they teach in this most beautiful school, where a lot of the children are very underprivileged. They either don't have both parents, or they may be orphans, or they may have parents who are from very low income families. And the winners get to teach in this school and a slum project. And the other international projects we have at Wings of Hope are in Sierra Leone and previously in Malawi. So
Wow.
it's a very internationally focused charity, really focused on young people, and not in classroom skills, but in skills like communication, teamwork, leadership, which will set you forward through life, as we all know.
And I guess the thing about going to somewhere like India, I mean, it is so different. I mean, I absolutely love India, but it's very different to the UK. It's certainly very different from London, isn't it? I mean, that must really sort of shift their expectations, their perceptions of what poverty is and what wealth is and what sort of things you can do when you set your mind to it and so on.
Yeah, I mean, and India has evolved. I mean, India is a massive country, and even though it's such an emerging and big economy, and everyone's eyes are on India from a sort of commercial perspective right now, it hasn't been the case like that for
Mm.
many years, and it still isn't the case. India is vast, and there are so many poor people and people who are trying to fight poverty, trying to emerge, because there's over 1 billion people. It's just mind-boggling. So you go and all of your senses are sort of,
Yeah.
exercise, your sights, the sounds, the smells, and you know empathy is a key skill, and I suppose the Wings of Hope has given me an understanding of how important enterprise and sort of social projects must interact with each other. It's just the foundations of success. It's what makes me very happy.
Yeah, yeah. No, I can well believe that. And tell me about your business, Bags of Ethics, because that's a slightly different project, isn't it? And that also has a
Different.
kind of a social kind of core to it. I mean, just give us a flavour
So
of.
Street Creations is the company name, and it was founded by my father in 1999, and he's still very much involved in the business. I joined in 2008. Um, he didn't want me to join. I didn't think I would join. I had dreams of sort of being in the city
Right.
and had lots of work experience under my belt. I went to a great university, but I didn't land the job that I wanted to in management consulting, and said I would join his. Well, I asked, can I sort of hang about over the summer in 2008? And that was 18 years ago, and I can't believe it. I just can't believe that it's been this long, because I'm very passionate and learning every day. And so the business was set up to help reduce single-use plastic, predominantly in the supermarket around single-use shopping bags. And my father built a factory to manufacture alternatives in South India in a place called Pondicherry. And as part of his recruitment strategy, he wanted lots of women. He doesn't know why, but he said, no, I think it's really important for them to gain a skill, have financial independence. So as a result, 25 years on, 80% of our workforce are women. And because of the nature of the product being sort of against single use, we've taken that and moved it to a mission around reusable. So reusable products for brands is what we manufacture and design for brands globally. So we're predominantly a B2B business. We do have some B2C channels when we do charity projects. And we manufacture reusable bags, reusable pouches, reusable packaging, reusable coffee cups, reusable bottles, anything which helps you reuse your item. And it's generally given in three scenarios. First, in a sort of gifting method. So in retail, in fashion, in beauty, in travel, in hospitality, customers are often gifted merchandise.
Right.
And so we would manufacture that for brands. Or many industries need secondary packaging, and so we manufacture that, whether it's for the fashion industry or the beauty industry. We would manufacture packaging out of textiles. And the third is if someone buys our products and then resells it on. So we have lots of boutiques around the world who are small business owners, and they buy from us and then they retail it on. So that's what we do, Paul.
Okay. And do you think, I mean, let me ask you about your Indian heritage. I mean, does that and the values that came with that, has that shaped your approach to business, would you say? I mean, it's clearly shaped your approach to the kind of charity bit, but has it shaped your approach to business? And in
About
what
being
way?
Indian, I don't know if it's about being Indian as opposed to, what are the values that you're brought up with. So I really don't, I think it doesn't, just because I'm Indian doesn't mean that I would be more charitable. I can tell you countless number of Indians who aren't charitable.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
And so, we should look at the converse. I think, the values of my family have been utterly generous. My grandmothers, my grandfathers have always been giving. Now, is that culturally important to India in terms of hospitality and generosity? I would say that is culturally quite important. Indian culture is all around food and
I mean, that
festivities,
that was that was what was
hospitable.
that was partly what was behind my question. Because when I went to India, when I've travelled in India, I've been there a few times. I mean, people are incredibly friendly and it is incredibly hospitable. Now, when I go to London, I mean, it's not nearly as friendly, to be quite honest with you. So that was partly what was behind my question, whether that kind of cultural component has an
Yeah,
impact.
I mean, of course, there is always the philosophy around togetherness and family, but that doesn't, one can't extrapolate that and say, well, that happens everywhere and always, because I can tell you countless number of Londoners who are incredibly generous and fun and giving. You just have to seek them out in different pockets. But yes, obviously your heritage and your family plays a huge part in how you are thinking about things. I grew up in Northwest London, so I grew up in a very diverse community where festivals were celebrated in
Yeah.
schools and the process of giving was very much very important. But London is amazing. I mean, London has just been voted the sort of cultural capital of the world. And I think what is amazing about London are the pockets of communities who celebrate their cultures and their heritages with true excellence. And it's really important to remember that London is a completely open and culturally accepting and culturally excellent
Very
city.
diverse, very diverse.
Incredibly diverse, and has all of the cultural institutions operating at such a high level that when you do go to another country, you do see there's a big gulf between what does London have to offer. It's truly a global city, and what is not available in some other capitals.
Yeah. So let me ask you about being a CEO and making decisions. I mean, would you say that, well, let me put it into the context of something that's happening right at the moment. I mean, AI is changing the way pretty much everything works in one way or another. I mean, what does it mean to you to be a decision maker in the age of AI? Now, I know you're not selling tech products as such, but presumably AI has an impact on the way you do business.
Yeah, we are using it, and I think I've been really lucky to go to several sort of conferences with leaders, whether they're from retail or hospitality, in which this topic is talked about. I listen to podcasts about it, and there's a few things. One is even those leading AI businesses at the moment admit themselves that they don't quite know where it's going.
Yeah.
So if you listen to Demis Hassibis, a brilliant chief exec, a brilliant founder, a brilliant visionary, he himself is saying, look, we are not quite sure of the time span and scale in which AI is going to make an impact. We know that it's going to make an absolutely monumental impact. But what we can hear is that the combination of the human touch and AI and the interaction between the human and the machine is a very important dynamic. In terms of decision making, which was your question, data and the understanding of data is absolutely incredible. And I think what AI can do in terms of sourcing and synthesizing data in a way that is easy to digest is helpful for any leader. As in, when I mean leader, it's not just the chief exec, it's anyone who's making a decision, which could even be someone at the shop floor level or a front of house level, or anyone can use this. However, we all know that AI machines hallucinate. We all know that the input within the AI machines are based on several prejudices, and that has been based on how the system has been developed. So one has to recognize the nuances within the data that's being presented. We also know that the way things are written, if you use it for writing tools, for example, at the very basic level, you know that actually there's a kind of a uniform tone of voice that is present now across a lot of marketing channels. So then you think, okay, what's your point of difference as a business? What's your point of difference as a leader? How are you going to make decisions by yourself using the data that you've got presented, whether it's through AI or not, and all of the tools and the functions? You need to have the human touch.
So how do you do that? I mean, you just made that point about how what's your point of difference? I mean, what would you say that is?
Point of difference is that in the age of AI, your brand and the way you present your brand becomes even more important and even more of a competitive advantage, because that is the only thing that you own. You own the brand, and your brand is the DNA of your brand cannot be changed. It cannot be muted. So AI is, from a tactical point of view, you can use it for all of the tools, but the core of your business is your brand. What do you stand for and how are you going to do it? So if you're using AI, for example, in an HR context, and you think, okay, I need to make some cost savings. This is absolutely not the case in our business. We're frankly doing the opposite. But if you're saying, look, I need to make some cost savings, I need to know which members of the team to sort of remove, your AI may give you some data, but the human touch will tell you how are you going to do it and what's within your brand values. Are you going to tell them face to face, or are you going to send an email? All of these recruitment strategies around sort of robotic interviews and CV screening, we just don't do it maybe we're not at the scale of a business, some of the scales of the businesses that do operate like that. But I think it's really important to understand the character of the person that you're hiring and the character of the person that you may have to let go.
So you're saying what you're just to get this right, what you're saying is that the point of view that underpins the brand, your kind of take on the world, influences how you use AI. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, and I think, the combination of the human touch and not letting go of the human touch is important. Humans are fallible and humans make mistakes. Humans have judgments and prejudices. And so that has to be taken into consideration. So I think the combination of AI and humans can actually be really good in terms of making you less prone to prejudices. But we know factually that AIs do have, the technology does come with a lot of prejudice, and that's trying to be ironed out. But it's not going to be anytime soon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I think that's a big concern. I mean, I certainly would agree with that. The the other thing that interests me though is because AI is not going to go away. I mean, it may not be perfect, but it's not going to go away. It's like humans; they're not perfect. So the real challenge, it seems to me, is how you make the most of it to enable better decision making. So let me ask you a question. So if you're facing a situation where there is no right answer, there are multiple things you could do. Just so I understand this right, what you're saying is we would use AI to gather data, but we would make the decision based on our values. Is that fair summary? And why is that so important to you?
Well, it's really important on every level. Good moral judgment. You
Right.
know if you're going to do something right or wrong. Now, I'm a philosophy student, so I know that moral challenges are really hard to have perfect answers to, regardless of whether you have tech or not.
Yeah.
Okay, the classic philosophical challenges of you've got a charging train, you've got two tracks, you've got to pull the lever, you've got one person who's disabled who's there, and then the other is a set of 10 children. Who are you going to kill? These are moral challenges, and the interaction between whether it's policy or decision making within a business there's always a moral challenge involved, and it is based on your philosophy and your values as to what you would then prioritize.
And how has that kind of philosophical perspective shaped the way you run the business as a CEO? mean, have you had a particular impact because of that thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have had a very values-based upbringing, and need constant reminders. I've got in front of me here, I've got the Bhagavad Gita, which I would sometimes open. I don't know the Bhagavad Gita, but it's just one way, and sometimes you can open it up and it'll have something philosophical quite deep, and you think, oh, you need to step back, step back. The problem that you're dealing with is probably not that important.
Yeah.
I've had the best upbringing. My grandmother, who passed away in October, I'm absolutely, joined to the hip with her, always would know, you know, what you should prioritize. Every day at 4 p.m., she'll phone me up and she'll say, have you picked up your son? Knowing that, just making sure that I know what the priorities are in life. Have you picked up your son from school? Yes or no? So that puts things into perspective about all of these sort of, there aren't very many complex decisions to be made. Lots of people add a lot of sort of, you know, hype and hysteria onto certain problems. But actually, when you step back and you step back and you step back and you think, is this really that problematic? It's not. Often, 9 times out of 10, it's just not.
So let me ask you then about a good decision that you've made. What would you say has been the best decision that you've made as a
I mean,
CEO?
I've made loads of good decisions, and I don't think there are any bad decisions. I think you just always learn from them. But you'd make decisions on a daily basis.
What would be the best one? I mean, you must have had some real wins over the years.
One of the really good decisions. Yeah, I do struggle with this word decision because yes, you can be decisive, but then things iterate over time and you have to pivot. So one thing,
Mm.
but I'll always give things a go. And there've been several things. During the pandemic, I had gone to the factory in India, just before the pandemic and said, look, we're going to have a wonderful year, and came back and to realize that the factory would have to be closed. But my colleague in Italy said, look, why don't we consider pivoting our tailoring to make reusable face masks? And then we did some research across with scientists and with product developers in Japan. And we said, why don't we create a campaign to create reusable face masks? And I phoned up my friend at the British Fashion Council at the time and said, look, why don't we do a campaign raising money for charity and creating beautiful designer face masks? And that was a strong decision. It was a momentous decision because we had to change.
You sound really proud of it.
I'm extremely proud of it. We raised a lot of money and it pivoted the business and it created new opportunities for our brand to tell our story. You wouldn't have heard of us otherwise.
I'm sure. Let me ask you about the flip side. I mean, what's the worst decision that you've ever made?
I honestly, I mean, I cannot recall, single points of decisions where you make decisions all the time, and how you rate them as, bad or good is simply incorrect. There's a gradation and there's iteration, there's pivoting. And so that's my approach to decision making. You can make a decision, whether it's bad or good. If you've made a decision and then it turns out to be, oh, we haven't quite done it well, you have to then steer around it. So I cannot give you a single bad decision I've made. I'm sure there's several, but I don't position them in my head as bad.
Yeah, that's probably a good way of managing it mentally, I'm sure. I mean, the reason I was asking, I mean, my experience has been that, sometimes when things don't go according to plan, I think the outcome's going to be bad, but sometimes the outcome is good. And the converse happens. Sometimes when things have gone to plan, I think, oh, that'll be great, and then it isn't great. And what I'm trying to get at is the kind of the gap between deciding to do something and the outcome being the outcome that you want or not want. And I'm interested in that because I don't think that connection is nearly as strong as people think.
So we go back to our spiritual and philosophy and values-based class. You've got to just do your best and you leave the rest. So I think when you overplan and you have these wild aspirations and you dream of something, you must dream and dream big, and you must have goals, and actually you can manifest those goals. But if you get so attached to them, the process of attachment is problematic. So you've just got to work hard, you do your best, and you leave the rest. And that's my approach. I can't overly plan things and think, oh my goodness, that was so bad. Because sometimes somewhere there's always a silver lining. Life is you have peaks and troughs, as we all know. You have been in this business of speaking to chief executives all the time. And I think if you position a problem as a problem, you're not a problem solver then. And I like solving problems. So I never think, oh, well, that didn't go to plan. That's a demise. Just think, okay, well, let's work around it.
Yeah, I mean, it's about being flexible, isn't it? I mean, I absolutely agree with you because as I've just said, I mean, I think the correlation between making a decision to do one thing and the outcome being that thing or something else are not necessarily closely related. I mean, because so many other factors can have an influence. But let me put the question in a slightly different way. Let me think about it. Let's think about it in terms of risk. I mean, a friend of mine said to me a little while ago, he said, we were talking about making mistakes. And he said, I don't worry about mistakes because I think the big risk is not exploiting the opportunity, not failing to do something perfectly well. I mean, what's your take on kind of risk and opportunity and how that plays out with your business? And how do you manage that as the CEO?
Opportunity. So, we have, I definitely leap at opportunities. And have no qualms about jumping on a plane, meeting a person, dropping everything, getting on a phone call. I use the entire 24 hours. I'm not a workaholic, but I probably do work all the time, but I don't feel it's work. I don't feel it's a burden. And so I take lots of opportunities that come my way. I'm very positive about them. And there's always going to be risks involved. There's always risks involved. And I think it's really important to have counterbalances within the business who say, are you sure? Are you sure that's not, too bolshy? Are you sure? So you need to have forces which curtail you. If you're a really positive and optimistic person, you need to have people who present the data and regularly check in with you. So I have regular meetings on data across all of, like, a lot of the touch points in the business, occupancy in the factory, within the different departments, or, who's coming into our website and where are they leaving and why are they leaving? Why is this, from a sales pipeline point of view? I get a lot of data, and I get people who are really good at crunching the data to present. But then I also ask really simple, often, questions which may seem they're too simple, but actually unveil, you know, unlock all of these unanswered questions, because someone thought, well, I thought that's so simple a question. Surely that's already covered. And often those things aren't covered, sometimes. So then we operate on checklists, everything is sort of standardized. So as much as I'm a really bold, creative thinker with lots of opportunities, we have very sort of standardized ways of working. And that absolutely comes from the training from my father to this very day. Operate on checklists. Where are the minutes of the meeting? Very basic administrative tools.
You're talking about attention to detail there, aren't you?
High attention to detail. Any piece of comms, I had a chat this morning, why are we using sort of AI tools to write copy on our social media? Because it loses our tone of voice. You need to ensure the tone of voice, or if there's a press release, or if there's an offer letter going to a candidate, or if there's onboarding to do, how are we presenting ourselves? I think we need to do a lot better in some aspects, but we are always striving. And I think because we work with so many clients within the sort of luxury industry, where attention to detail is critical for the brand, we are taught ourselves. I'm so privileged. I get to go and attend so many beautiful events which are so well organized, that you then get trained to see what is excellent and what's good.
And let me ask you, how do you, I mean, the word that was going through my mind is share. That's maybe not the right word, but how do you help your people engage with those? Because it's one thing for you to say, I think this is excellent. No wrong with that. That's great. But you've got a team of people that you need to deliver that, haven't you? I mean, how do you create an environment in which your people can operate at that kind of level?
Well, I don't talk about anyone being my people. Number one, I'm in the mix. No one, I don't believe I'm the chief exec. I believe I'm just a colleague. I'm just, here. So I have a hopefully approachable manner. I absolutely celebrate when people have identified mistakes. I think it's amazing when someone raises their hand or they are disgruntled at something within the business. I actually celebrate that, because they're eyes and ears on the ground and they're happy to tell you. And very collaborative in the way that we think about projects. We ask people to share their ideas. We get on, we're in a very international team. Just before this, I had everyone join a sort of mini town hall within the sales and marketing team to show what I had been to this week and what other people in the business had been taking photos at these sort of activations, and people get to share. So I have the ability to care about people's personal situations. So if someone's child is sick, or they're not feeling well, we obviously have an HR process, but I get messages on WhatsApp. I have an open way, but I also follow protocol. It's not like a free-for-all where everyone can ask me and swing a decision because they've talked to me. We follow protocol. Here's your line manager. Tell me anything you want, but I'm going to still follow the structure of the business, because otherwise you're not empowering people to feel like they have their roles and responsibilities. I would never try and undermine any member of the teams. I also call out bad behavior. So if someone says they're off sick and I know they're probably skiving, I'll say, look, tell me if you've gone to a party or if you've gone to an event and you can't come to work. I'd rather know more about the party and the event and how fun it was. Don't lie.
Yeah, no. I mean, what you're talking about is being transparent, really, and it works both ways.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me ask you about the downside to some of that, though. Let me ask you about, I mean, how would you approach making a decision that's going to make you really unpopular?
You say that again?
How would you approach making a decision that is probably going to make you really unpopular? Let's say, I mean, I know you wouldn't want to do this, but let's say you were forced to have to lay a lot of people off. I mean, how would you approach those sort of really awful decisions? I mean,
Well,
what I'm trying to
yes.
get at is what is it about your values and background that will equip you to do that as well as possible, even though it's something that you don't want to do, if you get my drift.
Why? I mean, if you've got to do it in the nicest and kindest way possible so that everyone understands the logic. I train in the morning in a gym, and I'm very lucky to have a lady who works with me who works in HR, and she's always telling me about, her approach is such a human way. If you've got to fire someone, you get on a plane if they're not in the same country and you do that face to face, or you work out with them. Because at the end of the day, we are all humans. We have families around. So if you've got to lay off people, you have to explain the reason why you're doing it in the clearest possible way, so they are like, yeah, sure, that makes sense. But if you do it in an unempathetic way, in an illogical way, and people will have different formations of right and wrong and logic,
Yeah.
but you have to take people on the journey with you. I was during COVID, there were lots of examples of businesses laying off people, and I heard of one example where it was a town hall meeting. The person firing all of their team had a pool in the background and had their video on with the pool in the background, firing a load of people. I mean, check on these things. You've just got to be conscious of who are you and what is your position. And frankly, your position is equal to everyone. If anyone thinks they're in a position of leadership, they're not. They're not. They're in the mix with everyone. You do not have a business if you don't have people working with you. And people choose to come to work. People choose to want to work with your business. And they can easily say, thank you, bye-bye. So the moment you exert too much hubris, in my view, you've lost it.
I mean, it's interesting you use the word hubris. I mean, I would agree with you totally. I mean, you see that a lot with politicians. I mean, you're seeing it with Donald Trump at the moment, for example. I mean, it seems to be an awful lot of hubris there. Not that I want to get political, but let me ask you another question. To what extent, as the business has grown, have you ever had situations where, if you like, the business has grown beyond you and your expertise, and that's
Yeah.
created challenges for you? I mean,
I mean, I'm forever seeking guidance, advice. I know very little. you know, I'm always seeking guidance and advice, and I know that I know very little. And so as we
What
grow,
sort of things would be giving you headaches now?
well, currently, I mean, I don't see much as a headache. I think, Paul, you probably figure out my my character. I just don't see many things as a headache. What I don't like is bad behavior, and I'm probably
What do
quite
you mean
head
by bad behavior? I
bad
mean,
values. Don't go behind people's backs. Don't do side deals. Don't be be straightforward.
mm,
And I will always call out bad behavior, which I don't think is a very popular thing to do, but I don't care because I know it's the right thing to do. And your moral compass is always the most, that's that in the sort of pyramid of, what do you follow? You follow what's right. So, there aren't, I mean, headaches occur all the time, but it's where you position it. Is it a headache or not? Sometimes you learn from problems. I'm very happy if a customer tells us in a disgruntled manner, though we don't actually, we have an amazing record in terms of which we've worked so hard on over the years,
mm,
iterating, merchandising or product design or communication or, product finishing. These things have been we iterate, on a minute level. And I'm always delighted if someone says, oh, I'm so disgruntled. I always talk to them. I try and talk to them personally. I then try and understand why are they disgruntled, and if it's a fair reason or not. We don't have this sort of automated computer says no, and we are at a scale. It's not like we're a tiny business. We are at a scale that we have lots and lots of transactions happening all over the world all the time. But I will always try on a weekly basis to see if there are any disgruntlements. Why are they? Why are they there? And is there a learning? Because that's the bet. I mean, that's free business survey knowledge you're getting there, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, it's an interesting point, mate. I mean, I've always believed that the good feedback isn't very helpful. You know, when somebody says, "I love it," that's nice to know, but it don't help you. When somebody says it doesn't work in this situation, that's useful because then you can fix it.
100%.
So let me ask you a bit more about the kind of learning then. So has your experience and what you've learnt on the job, has that changed your view about what good leadership is?
Yes.
So, and in what way?
I don't know if it's changed my view, but it's made me more observant. My antennae are on. You can see a great leader has humility, has the ability to mentor, has the ability to be open-minded. They're not tone deaf. They're aware of the people around them. They're not too shiny and glossy, and they they have the ability to connect, decide, know when to prioritize things. You can see excellent leadership, and you can see bad leadership too.
Mm. And in terms of the way that that's changed over time, I mean, you talked about wanting to go into consultancy at the beginning of your career. I mean, I worked in consultancy for a while, and it's great because you get to see lots of stuff and work on lots of
Yes.
projects, so you learn a lot. And my views about how to build a business kind of changed partly on the back of that. So I had a different view of certainly how to run big projects on the back of that. I mean, have those sorts of things changed for you? Would you say you're more effective in terms of getting things delivered than you perhaps were at the beginning of your career?
Yes, yes, yes. I'm very action oriented. I think management consultants have the most incredible way of digesting a large amount of
Yeah.
information, synthesizing it, getting to the nuts and bolts of the key issues of a business. And that's what I really admire. They're sort of doctors of business. Um, and I fully admire the professional services delivered by top management consultants. Um, I'm definitely skilled on the entrepreneurial end, which is on delivery. Take an idea, think about it, but don't overthink about it.
Mm.
Try, iterate, pivot, and figure it out. Be agile.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a kind of a way of thinking entrepreneurship, isn't it?
Possibly, yeah. I haven't thought about it like that, but I
Yeah.
think it's about looking at every opportunity and saying, how can I? Yeah, I mean, I think enterprise and being entrepreneurial is getting something off the ground.
Hmm.
So if
Yes,
that is
well,
a
it's about
mindset,
it's about thinking about opportunities and figuring out how to exploit them. Seems to me that's what's at the heart of being an entrepreneur, and that's what you've just sort of described, really, which I think is a good thing. I mean, one of the things I like about entrepreneurs is that that's the way they are. The other thing I like about entrepreneurs is that they're very good at working out when something's not working and then fixing it. Because if you don't fix it, you don't make any progress. And I think people, they tend to be very motivated. People who want to make progress on stuff. Um, Let me ask you a couple of questions just before we wind up. So, if you were to start again, if you were, it's kind of relates to the question I've just asked you, but if you were to start again, is there anything that you would do differently, do you think?
probably have done a full accountancy course.
Really? Really?
Yeah. I was at PwC for my gap year, and so I got an awareness of accounts. I've done an MBA, but I think the 3-year process of being an accountant, I think is really, really, really useful.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Certainly, when
um,
you know the numbers, you know the business. I mean, if you don't know the numbers, you don't know the business. I mean, would be my view
exactly,
on that.
exactly, exactly. So, you can't just skirt on the surface. You've got to be able to sort of audit and dig and dig and dig and dig and sort of say, why that doesn't quite. And I think that skill is an amazing skill.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's pretty useful, that's for certain. Let me ask you another question that's kind of related to that. If you were to offer some advice, and you talked about how you've had good advice from people in the past. I mean, what if to perhaps a rookie CEO, somebody starting out? I mean, what would that one piece of advice be, do you think?
A rookie CEO or someone who's much younger, who's just sort of a
somebody who's
university.
starting out on a journey, I'm not really bothered about what age they are, but somebody who's starting out on a journey like yours, I mean,
Yeah,
they might be
well,
older, they might be.
I think the most important thing focus,
Because,
is focus.
yeah, because,
Uh,
why would you
because,
say?
uh, because, I mean, because one can get distracted by all sorts of opportunities and all sorts of things all the time. There's always something shiny and new and exciting. And I've seen this on Instagram, or I've seen this. Oh my God, but laser focus. What's your goal? Does everyone know about that being your goal? And even when you're in the weeds of the tech and this and the implementation, step back, step back, step back. What's the goal? And are you focused on that, or is it slightly off target? So, what is the goal? And keep laser focused on the goal.
Pretty good advice, I would think. I mean, wasn't it say that the lion only chases one gazelle? I mean, I think it's a great piece of advice that to stay focused. I mean, I would say that because I'm one of those people that's easily distracted by shiny objects. So, I mean, I certainly recognise the importance of it, having not done it myself on occasion. So, anyway, I mean, thank you for making a bit of time to come and talk about what you're doing. I mean, I think it's a really interesting business and the charity as well. I mean, both really interesting areas to be focused on. And thank you for sharing your thoughts about how to make it all happen. Because that's always the $1 million question, really. How do you make it happen? And I really appreciate you taking time to come and talk to us.
Well, thank you so much because I've had a really entertaining chat with you. I didn't know that it would be this philosophical and this incisive. So I'm really delighted. So thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate it.
Thank you. See you soon. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye bye.